Hello and welcome back to Ruby's Real Success Stories, your resource for uplifting and inspiring success stories and manifesting from real people. Today's success story is called The Perfect Apartment. And since the contributor wishes to remain anonymous, I'll be referring to her as Jane. This story is how Jane manifested a new home despite some very challenging life circumstances. She implements a few different techniques in this story that we will touch on afterward. And if you have a manifesting success story that you'd like to share with the channel, I would love to hear from you. So stay tuned until the end for submission details. Here is The Perfect Apartment. Enjoy! Hi, Ruby. Here's my story about how I manifested my perfect apartment. A while back, I went through a very difficult breakup while at the same time filing for bankruptcy. It was a low point for me, so I decided to start over and move to another state. I had a close friend who graciously allowed me to stay with her while I got my bearings, but I was living in a small room with all of my belongings and my cat and needed a place of my own. Although I was excited for a fresh start, I was struggling to find work and feeling the pressure of starting over. Since I already knew about manifesting at that time and had already had some successes, I decided to put it to the test again. I needed a place to live, so I sat down with a sheet of paper and made a list of everything I wanted in my new place. Because my last apartment was in an old and drafty building with no amenities whatsoever, I decided to add everything that I wanted. This list included on-site laundry, central heat and air, on the second floor, an assigned gated parking space, secure entry with an intercom, a dishwasher, high ceilings, a balcony or outdoor sitting area, and I really wanted the apartment to be 2 stories, which is really hard to find where I live with my small budget, but I always wanted it, so I added it to the list anyway. I also specified the neighborhood and wanted it to be no further west than a street called Cavern Road. I had accepted a part-time job taking food orders for a restaurant while I still applied for more lucrative full-time work. I was also searching every app and website for apartments and one day clicked on a post with only one blurry picture. I don't even know why I clicked on it, but when I read the description, I had a really good feeling. So I made an appointment, and as soon as I saw it, I knew it was the place for me. It seemed to have everything on the list, including wide open ceilings that sloped all the way to the second story loft bedroom. And it was located exactly on Cavern Road. The only thing missing was the balcony, but I noticed that other units in the building had balconies, so I asked the manager if any other apartments were available that included a balcony. She told me that one was coming up in a few weeks but hadn't been listed yet, and she pointed it out from the building's exterior. Most of the units had small average balconies that would fit a couple chairs, but this specific unit had a huge second floor patio big enough for a table, chairs, a sofa. It was incredible. I was so excited, but my excitement stalled abruptly when the manager told me that I would have to fill out an application and that due to my lack of job history in the state and my current income and my bankruptcy that tanked my credit score would probably go to someone else. I told her that I could perhaps approach my father about co-signing the lease, but she said that because he lived in a different state, it was unlikely to be approved. It seemed like impossible circumstances and like all odds were against me. But I knew about manifesting, and at that point, I figured there was nowhere to go but up, LOL. So I made the decision to ignore all the negative circumstances and to shift my mindset and fill out the application anyway. When I got home, I stared at the stack of boxes with all of my belongings in my tiny room and visualized that stack in the center of the living room of the new apartment. Anytime throughout the day that I would feel stress or doubt about the apartment, I would visualize those boxes in the living room and tell myself that I already live there and I'm already approved. I also wrote an email that I sent to myself from the apartment complex and opened it regularly. The subject line said, "Congratulations and welcome to the Fountain View Apartments." In the body of the email, I wrote that I had been approved and that they were excited to have me as part of their community. Don't get me wrong, I definitely had my doubts and bad days, but really tried to remain vigilant about dispelling any negative thoughts and replacing them with my vision of my belongings in my living room. A couple of weeks went by and I was struggling to keep the faith, but then one day I actually received the same email that I had written to myself, but this time it was in real life. And it was almost word for word the email that I had imagined in my mind and written out in that email. I have no idea how or why the landlord decided to give me this apartment, as I had been told by the manager that there were many other applications and I was underqualified. But as Neville Goddard says, the workings of the universe are beyond our knowing. The how is not up to us, but up to the universe. You just have to believe that it is already finished. This is the best apartment I've ever had, and I've lived here for 3 years now. Not a day goes by that I don't say a prayer of gratitude and appreciation for this wish fulfilled during one of the most difficult times of my life. As Neville says, persist, persist, persist. I hope this helps and inspires others to keep going. All the best, Jane. Thank you to Jane for sharing her story. And I think she pointed out a key element, which is that you don't need to know how something will happen. According to Neville Goddard, most of the orchestration for our desires happens behind the scenes on what he calls the bridge of incidents. So who knows what moved the landlord to grant her the apartment? Maybe other applications fell through or were withdrawn, or maybe the requirements for approval changed. There are infinite ways for the universe to rearrange circumstances. Sometimes that bridge will be obvious, and often it won't. But the good news is that it's happening behind the scenes, and you don't have to worry about it or figure it out. She also implemented scripting, visualization, and living in the end when she wrote the email. Just keep in mind that you don't have to be perfect. She still had doubts and bad days, but she persisted. And I would recommend experimenting with whatever techniques and methods feel most natural to you. If you like the idea of writing something down, I do recommend Joseph Ally's Systematic Manifesting channel. He has a method called the list method, which really helps to build and strengthen your faith and belief in the law. Also, I'm not affiliated with him, or I've never met him in any way, but his channel has been extremely helpful to me personally. So I like to make suggestions in case you want to research things further or figure them out. So I also really appreciated that she had a clear image in her mind with the boxes in the living room that she could quickly access when her ego mind started to disrupt things with fear and anxiety and negativity. It's good to have a go-to visual so that you don't get caught up in overthinking in those moments. So I hope you enjoyed Jane's story and that you'll join me again for the next episode of Ruby's Real Success Stories. If you have a manifesting success story that you'd like to share with the channel, I would love to hear from you. Please email me at RealRubySubmissions@gmail.com. And I look forward to hearing from you. Be well and best wishes.